Hey, all you creatures from cyberspace. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the GraveTalk podcast. My name is Mark, again joined with Garrett and John, and we're here to talk about Rob Zombie's latest, The Munsters.
Halloween 3, The Munsters.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Why?
It's all one big continuum.
Oh, it's still in the Myers-verse is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Zombie-verse.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Myers house was like 1315 Mockingbird Lane?
Exactly. Yeah. Devil's Rejects also happened. Backyard.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hotel's on the other side.
Same subdivision.
Yeah.
Very small world.
Well, fellas, I wanted to do something on this movie because we did do a reaction video to it. We were
To the trailer.
To the trailer, correct. And we were hopeful for it. Now we've all sat through it, some of us more than one time, and we're here to tell our thoughts on the latest Herman, Lily, and Grandpa story that is a prequel to the 1960s television show. What do you think about it?
But what about the kids?
They're not in it.
Won't someone please think of the children?
They did, and they axed them out of there.
Get these kids out of here.
Well, as Mark said, I've seen this movie multiple times. I think, what was it, 4 or 5 times now? Something like that.
That is more than Rob Zombie's seen it.
Probably.
It's possible. I really was torn on it when I first saw it. I enjoyed quite a few parts of it. I would say with a second viewing, it grew on me. Third viewing, I think I really understood what the project was. And then fourth and fifth, which is great background, movie while I was working on other projects. But yeah, I liked it.
I watched this movie one time and did not like it. But you know what? I will say I am not a big Munsters person to begin with. I've never really seen the show. I've seen clips, and I'm sure I've caught episodes on Nick at Night or whatever back in the day, but it was not a big part of my childhood. So I didn't approach it with any kind of nostalgia or love for the property. I was just sort of viewing it as a movie, and it was not great.
I am a fan of the Munsters, John. I grew up watching it on Nick at Night. Probably sandwiched in between I Dream of Jeannie and Mr. Ed and Dobie Gillis reruns. I have a lot of expectations when it comes to recreating.
Dobie Gillis.
Hell yeah.
Shit,
That was a deep cut.
crap.
With Maynard G. Krebs.
I think when we watched The Munsters, didn't we talk about My Mother the Car? Didn't that come up in the process too? God,
Usually.
those shows were terrible.
Right.
There was no
Well,
Bewitched. That was my jam. I liked
Bewitched was a jam.
Bewitched.
Oh, that was one of my first major crushes when I was a kid.
Let's just talk about Nick at Night shows, shall we?
So you know what's on Nick at Night now? Everybody loves Raymond. Shit
Are you
that was
serious?
on. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Just shift your TV 30 years. Now they were in the 60s and the 90s. Now they're in the 90s.
At first it was All in the Family. Now it's Family Matters.
Yeah.
Are they not peppering the old stuff in between?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't watch a lot of Nick at Night, to be fair. I'm already in bed, but I don't think
Nick
so.
at Night
though.
starts at 7.
Hell yeah.
I'm here to watch the wheel and the news, and then I go straight to bed.
Let's see. You hit that Lubies, and then you got to take a nap to digest.
So I do hold kind of a high bar for this. I don't think you're going to ever top Fred Gwynn's Herman Munster. There's just no way touching that. He made it its own. He was so almost innocent and pure, you know what I mean? That character just really resonated with me as a kid. And specifically, it was the dynamic between Herman and Grandpa. Their dynamic in the show is fantastic. They play off of each other very well, but we don't get that in the show, or the movie, rather.
It's kind of Odd Couple, chemistry. A little bit antagonistic, but a little bit hey, we're buds. Let's go do that. That sounds like a fun idea. Let's go out. Let's blow some fireworks up, kind of thing.
This movie doesn't have that, and I understand because it is the prequel, right? This is kind of the events that take place that get our family to Mockingbird Lane in America. However, at an hour and 50 minutes, this has almost a snail's pace.
Oh, it's so slow.
Every single scene is stretched to the max, and then they try to pepper in jokes that usually don't land.
And they're very juvenile jokes. Maybe that's because of the audience.
The TV show was very juvenile too, though.
Fart jokes and just...
So I don't think the show had that kind of stuff. It wasn't juvenile, but it was
wholesome.
Innocent, wholesome, a family affair, right?
I went back and watched, I don't know how many episodes, but quite a few of the first season because I bought it on iTunes. There's a lot of juvenile humor in it. Maybe not like so much the fart jokes type stuff. I think that might be more of a product of like nowadays. But like the like real dumb kind of dad jokes, the real kind of like womp womp womp. That was definitely there in the episodes.
Sure, I wouldn't call that juvenile.
No.
Though. Again, that's the jokes of the time. It's the '60s, the family television.
Well, fart jokes, the jokes of the time now. I don't even remember any fart jokes in the movie, but
I didn't take any notes, to be honest. I was like, I'm going to go, well, all right. To be fair, this is all my fault because I got sick. We were supposed to do this the day after I watched the movie. I was like, okay, I can remember this garbage for 24 hours. 8 days is a bit of a stretch. So, but there were some very, I thought was like dated jokes, like not like late 90s type jokes, which is maybe what Rob Zombie's humor stopped. I mean, the guy's not getting any younger, so I get it. You know, as an elderly person
Rob
myself.
Zombie, you're old.
I think he tried to emulate the show. And I think you can see that in there. When it comes to the casting choices, I think that the guy who played Herman, I guess we should name these folks. So this one stars Sherry Moon Zombie as Lily, Jeff Daniel Phillips as Herman, and Daniel Roebuck as the Count, or AKA Grandpa. We do have some cameos from Jorge Garcia from Lost. You might remember him as Hugo.
I'm glad to see he was getting some work. Good for Hugo.
And we had Cassandra Peterson, AKA Elvira. She played the realtor that sells them the house at the latter back half of the
You
film.
put some respect on that. Mistress of the Dark.
Sorry, you're right. Sorry, my queen.
Who's the guy that played the doctor? The one that worked with Jorge Garcia?
Richard Brake as Dr. Wolfgang.
Okay. That dude was in Rob Zombie's 31. He was fucking rad in that. Man, he was so scary in that.
I still haven't seen that.
And it's just your standard grindhouse flick with very little plot, some really cool, fun scenes, some wild situations, but don't watch it for the plot. It's more just let's just have fun with a set and some fucking badass acting.
I mean, I can't blame the guy for putting his wife in all his movies, right? Like, I get it.
Can't
but
you, though?
Lord, she can't act.
No, I say
Can't
go
you,
for
though?
it. I say go for it.
Let's look at her IMDb and see if any other director has ever cast her in a movie.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
It does matter.
She's got a director.
It doesn't
Rob
matter.
Zombie.
It does matter. It means that maybe she's not as good as like hireable
he's not
talent.
making Exorcist,
No,
okay?
I get it, but after 20 years, wouldn't you accidentally get better at acting?
Wow. I didn't think she did that bad. I thought she tried really, 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 really hard to
Right.
basically do a good Lily. And I
Not
think that
good.
effort came through on the screen.
She did a mediocre Lily.
I thought she did a good job, but she tried, you could tell she was trying so hard to try to hit it.
Yeah.
Right.
If effort counted, then good work. But, I don't go watch movies for effort.
I liked it. God.
Well, look, is she
Do you think
definitely
you entertained it just by the fact that it was Sherry Moon?
Doesn't help, but I think, also, she's just not great.
I will say that at least she's playing a different character than like Baby.
The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, all that, right? So I'm not saying she doesn't have range. I'm not saying she's not a good actress like John over here.
No, I'm saying that.
I thought she did a perfectly serviceable job as Michael's mother in Halloween. I think that she just didn't get to Lily. That's the thing. Like, she tried very hard. I can tell she's trying very hard, but she didn't quite get there. She almost sounded like a nervous old woman
Yeah.
throughout the entire performance, and that's not Lily.
Yeah, she was a little more smooth.
Like Rob
Lily,
Thomas.
Lily has the moments of Herman. You know, she has very sternness to her voice when she needs to be. She feels more motherly. And again, I know
But
this
this
is
is
a
prequel.
prequel,
Yeah.
sure, but that brings me to my second issue. Say the performance of I just said his name, not Jeff
Daniel
Daniels.
Roebuck.
Jeff Daniel Roebuck is Horman. Hoyman as Herman. He doesn't emulate Fred Gwynn's Herman quite as well either. There's some choices with his voice that don't add up. He's
Jesus
too
Christ,
high
but
pitched.
But he's not the same dude.
Let me finish my point.
All right.
He is the same guy because they peg this as a prequel. This is a prequel to the show. So therefore, it's on you to make the best as you possibly can to make this look like that product.
Now, look, I don't want to save this movie or rescue it because it's terrible. But here's a little headcanon. They're growing into these characters that you know and love. So it makes sense because they're a younger version of themselves, they're going to be a little different.
They're not that much.
Yeah, you weren't
younger.
a sexless asshole now like you were back when you were young. Give it time to evolve.
I was. I think I'm making a perfectly valid point.
I think you're making a fair point. I think that you guys are holding this up to the standard of, you know, Tony C. horror movie is taking on the franchise of the Munsters, and he's out there looking for, out of the entire acting pool and actress pool, like the best talent who's going to nail this. It's a Rob Zombie flick. He's going to get his boys to come in and have some fun playing the Munsters. Now, I'm not saying that excuses all the stuff that's wrong with this film, because there is some definite stuff that's wrong with this film. But I think the guy who played Herman Can't remember his name now. Jesus Christ. We're
He
so
did
bad
the best
with names.
job. I agree with that. I really liked him.
I disagree. Grandpa did the best job.
Oh, Grandpa was
Grandpa
good
was
too.
definitely the best.
Jeff Daniel Phillips.
Phillips, I said Roebuck earlier.
You did.
But, yeah, no, so like, I think he did a really, really good job. Like, could any of us do that good of a Herman?
But I'm not going out there pitching, let me make a Munsters film. That doesn't add up.
Well, I don't think Jeff Daniel Phillips did either. I think Rob
he
Zombie was like,
auditioned.
do you want to play this role? And then he did.
But if you say yes, then you have an obligation.
But you know what you're describing right now? You're describing a fan film.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's Rob Zombie to a T. That's
Then
I think you guys need to accept that Rob Zombie makes fan films for Rob Zombie and his fans. And if you don't like the property he's chosen, fine. If you do like the property he's chosen, understand that he's going to Rob Zombie it up.
Okay, and that's what he's going to do. But I'm still going to hold you to the Munsters bar that I had, that I explained earlier.
Yeah. I've been Rob Zombied plenty of times, but
Rob Zombie, get at me, all right? I got your back, dog.
This is one of the weakest zombie that he's given me.
But again, like I can let some of this go when there's an actual meat to a movie, and there's no meat to this movie.
This is my biggest complaint. The story choice. The meeting of the two and the courtship of Eddie's father, which is another old TV show. But like, this should not have been 2 acts. Holy shit. This should have been the first act at most.
Really, at an hour 50. Like
The first act should have basically been like Herman and Lily meet. Second act should have been like the trials and tribulations of deciding how they're going to like live with Grandpa and how that's going to work out. And the third one should have been like the family dynamic, in my opinion. But yeah, there's not enough meat to keep an hour and 20 minutes of them just dating going. Holy crap. The scene in Paris could have just gone.
Really spun their tires a lot in this film. I agree with that.
Yeah, but there are parts of the movie that work, right? Like I really enjoyed when Herman got into a punk band and was playing that song at like a dive bar. I thought that was fun.
Herman and the Punk Rods.
Right, that was pretty fun. The moments between Lily and Herman whenever they're at his door at the hotel, like that interaction works. That was fun.
That was the club. That was the club.
Or the club, yeah. When he's backstage wearing that robe. Like that is the stuff that I wanted.
That's the crown jewel of this movie.
Right. If the entire movie was full of that, I wouldn't be as harsh on it because of the other things that bugged me about casting and performance. But there's nothing here.
Was there a big demand in the Munsterverse for a prequel? I assume you all call each other Munster heads? Yeah.
We call ourselves the Boltnecks.
Oh, I like that much better. Did the Boltnecks really want this?
No, I've never thought about wanting a prequel to how they got to be the family on Mockingbird Lane.
Yeah,
no, because someone who was a fan of the Munsters had the opportunity to make a Munsters film, and he did.
Okay.
So, yeah, this was not in demand, but this was just someone who had a love for a franchise and decided to do something with the franchise. Back to the story here, though. Would this movie, and this is my one thing that if I could give like a critique on, would you have liked this movie better if it was the kids involved? If it would have been the family aspect and not the meet cute that we had for an hour plus?
So the kids being Marilyn, who was the blonde who actually looked like a normal person but thought she was ugly, which was the gag. That's funny, right? And the boy was Eddie.
Butch Patrick played Eddie, yeah.
Right. So to be quite frank with you, they were never my favorite part of the show. Like I said, it was always Grandpa and Herman that I was there for. So I didn't really think anything was missing, but maybe that would have kind of put it together a little bit better.
But see, I always thought Grandpa and Herman always worked best in juxtaposition of the family aspect. Because as you mentioned earlier, Lily is the glue that holds this family together. She's the one that keeps Herman in line. She's the one that keeps Grandpa from basically being too Grandpa. She's the one that makes sure the kids are, like, you need to go talk to Eddie. He's having a problem. And Herman's like, okay, and then you get that moment of like your standard, 50s TV of like, what's going on, son? Because left to their own devices, they're fun. But you put them in that aspect of Herman's not really a great dad when you think about just how he is. He ends up being a great dad in the show, but like he's never like just naturally takes on that mantle. And Grandpa always chimed in with like really useful stuff, but only in the family dynamic of it. Left to his own devices, he's a kooky old man. So I thought the family aspect of it was always what made the Munsters charming and really kind of made them work as a whole unit. Just adults doing adult shit didn't really do much for me.
I wanted to see Grandpa in his lair brewing up some potion that accidentally turns Herman into like a bat. and then they got to deal with it. And that's the whole fucking
There's
show.
a scene where Grandpa literally is in his lair mixing up potions and turns his butler into a bat.
I'm telling you why I like the original show. I'm not talking about this movie.
I'm just saying you just named a scenario that literally happens in the movie.
But that's what I'm here for. The family stuff, meh. Out the door with it. I'm good with just seeing their hijinks between a Frankenstein's monster and an elderly Dracula.
I liked when they finally got to America. I thought that the movie picked up.
That should have been Act 2, dude.
Yes,
that should have been Act 2.
I really enjoyed that whole part much more than most of the scenes leading up to it.
Mark, you mentioned this, and I want to talk about this because I want to get John's opinion on this as well. One of the biggest, just I guess, sticking points for me in the script is the scene where Grandpa and Herman have their turn where they suddenly become cool. Now, this was the most wild, why is this happening? Because they're adversarial up to the point, and Herman has literally just lost their home in Transylvania. And then out of nowhere, Herman's like, we're going to go to America and be famous. And Grandpa's like, you got to take me with you. I love you guys. And after that, that adversarial stuff is gone.
Yeah, it's a complete tonal shift between the characters' dynamic, and it didn't make any sense because Grandpa should be like seething with hate that he just lost his mansion because his idiot son-in-law,
close.
Yeah, his son-in-law just lost it by getting hoodwinked by the Wolfman brother.
Yeah, I thought he would be more upset about that. It seems like an important thing to be mad about, but he just sort of let that roll off his back.
This seems like a pitch meeting demo reel that got stretched to 1 hour and 50 because I feel like this would have been the thing you take to the studios. Look, here's what we got going. What do you think? It's like, cool, write the rest of the movie.
This is fanfic. This is fanfic.
It is.
That got turned into a movie. And again, I'm okay for it. I'm okay with it. I'm there for it. Zombie is a next level when it comes to visual lighting and just set design. I mean, every shot in this movie was fucking gorgeous. I love the lighting.
I enjoyed the colors.
Palettes, you know, like everything about it was so good in that aspect. But yeah, the story is what just really just kind of like, wow, okay, you're going to keep this scene going. You could have cut that down by like 40 seconds. Every scene could have been cut by like 40 seconds and we would have been better off in this movie for it.
And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but the cinematography was kind of boring. Like there's not a lot of dynamic shots. It's all just very still character in
Dutch
shot,
angles
you know,
and stuff like that.
It's just all very basic.
Maybe he was trying to like homage the TV show though, right? Like that's how they filmed things back then.
There was a
camera,
lot of wipes and a lot of like, you know, camera pans and stuff that were very similar. Again, having seen the TV show recently, there is a lot of very similar feel. I think he was very cognizant about making those choices with it. But as an audience, we've grown since 50s TV. And so I think some of the stuff comes off as like lame in some cases, when in actuality, that's just how it was.
I think there's a lot of general sentiment in the viewership that feel that way. I wasn't holding any of that against it.
Yeah, no, I don't think you
but
were.
I think a lot of viewers do. I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think if it was all black and white,
I would
like
have
the
liked
original
it.
show?
I would have liked it less. The colors did add something to it, and I thought it was cool.
You think so?
Yeah.
I enjoyed the colors, but when it switched to black and white at the end, I was like, oh, I maybe could have done this whole thing like this.
I have nothing against black and white films. You know, I watch plenty of them, but I liked the oversaturated palette of that he chose for this go at it.
What was that movie that came out recently? They did like a color version and a black and white version. And I can't remember.
They did that for a little bit. Logan had a run on black and
that's
white.
what it was.
I think also the
Fury Road?
Snyder cut or whatever.
Fury Road. That was the one I was thinking of. Mad Max Fury Road did a black and white version.
It's cool to see those things in that way because it does totally change it.
I like the color aspect. I think if we took away the color, this movie would be very drab to a point where I don't know if I'd enjoy it.
It would have felt too 50s with the still cameras and the no color. It would have really been a tough. It was already a slog to get through. I found it would have been even harder, I think, if it wasn't at least mildly visually interesting.
That's true. Well, I don't think we really need to get into the plot, but just basic things is this is the creation of Herman. He meets Lily. They get engaged.
Why was the creation of Herman fucking 40 minutes long?
It was so goddamn long.
It wasn't that long. It was like maybe like 15 minutes, but
This whole movie could have been like the opening credits of a better movie. One that took place in America. And it was more of a traditional Munsters movie, I think, personally.
How would y'all feel about a anthology, 3 short 30 to 40 minute episodes, quote unquote, as I air quote on the podcast, where like modern directors take on like old horror TV shows and franchises and stuff like that? I think that might work better.
That could be fun. It'd be like an animatrix.
I think if Rob Zombie did a 40-minute episode of the Munsters, we could cut out a lot of the chaff, but
Sure. Maybe it would have worked better as a 30-minute episode of something.
Yeah. You know what Rob Zombie needs? He needs like a like a teammate editor. You know, like the editor who always worked with Scorsese, whose name I can't remember now. But the point is, as a team, they made very tremendous films, right? Rob Zombie needs someone who he trusts to go, you can cut a lot of this bullshit. This movie can be an hour and 30 minutes, Rob, and it's going to be, or Mr. Zombie, it's going to be so much better.
I think it's hard to do that, especially when it's his vision. It's his, from cradle to grave, that's kind of what Zombie does. He takes something and makes it very zombie-esque.
Look, if the guy who makes Goodfellas can or The Last Temptation of Christ can take feedback from an editor,
I don't
Rob
know if we're
Zombie.
Really compare Rob Zombie to Scorsese here.
I think you just did.
Yeah, I'm just saying Rob Zombie could compromise on his vision a little bit. All right.
This is like George Lucas in Star Wars, right? He needed
Yes.
people around him to tell him when he's making bad calls, or edit that down.
Yeah.
Who knows? We'll never know. I don't think he's going to get another opportunity to do this again. Do you?
I
Just
think so.
based on reception?
I think so. Maybe not Munsters itself.
Well, that's what I mean. The Munsters
He'll
property.
make more movies, but yeah, Munsters,
Yeah.
I think, is
But
put to
again,
bed.
I don't think anyone's clamoring to buy up this license. I if anything, maybe Tubi wanted to basically reboot it on their streaming platform or something. I think this was just like, hey, no one's talking about this thing. I dig it. Let's take a crack at it. Let's modernize this. Let's have some fun with something that we love. Again, let's call it a fan project. And again, he can make fan projects. They don't have to be. They're not the summer blockbusters.
Well, I'm still going to grade it on my professional
And
scale.
as you should. So what
And-
would you give it out of 5 stars?
Well, hold on. Let me say one more thing.
Whoa. Did you
Calm
tell me to
down.
hold on?
Hold
Yeah,
those
hold on.
horses.
Okay.
I'm not going to sit over here and claim that I am clamoring for more Munsters IP properties or ventures.
How does one clamor?
Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me the loot.
Just like that. Again, because I don't really need to see another take on Herman Munster again, because they tried it in the 80s, they tried it in the 90s, and none of them ever turned out very well. But I think there could be room for somebody to take it and make like on the level of an Addams Family movie that we got in the 90s. That took that old television show and made it pretty damn
Yeah.
fun.
I hated that movie.
Oh, they're
That was
both good.
Yeah.
I mean, all the actors were awesome in it. Don't get me wrong. Everyone who was in the Addams Family movie cast perfectly.
even the new animated Addams Family movie was pretty good, if y'all haven't seen it.
So I think there's room to do that for the Munsters. I don't see why we can't say that there could be a
agree.
big budget Munsters thing that people like.
I'm not saying there can't be. I'm just saying Rob Zombie is like, no one's fucking with this. I'm going to fucks with it. And he did. And Zombie's going to put his zombie stink on it. And I actually like the zombie stink. So, I'm cool with it.
Well, the zombie stink is bringing in 2 stars from me.
Maybe
on this
stink
one.
wasn't the right word. I didn't mean it in a derogatory way.
Well, you said it, and that's where we're going. The zombie stink, 2 stars.
Yeah. I'm gonna echo 2 stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to give it 4, but that'd be fucking crazy.
No, look,
No.
if you had to watch something 5 times to get to there,
Yeah,
then there's
I know.
something wrong.
Sounds like it wore you down. Not that it was good.
I would
Right.
give this movie 3 stars just because of the fact that there's a lot to enjoy here. I wish there was way you could when they have this movie contains violence, vulgar language, blah blah blah. It's also this is a movie you can watch while doing something else. They should have that warning on movies.
That's not a good review.
This movie
No, it's
contains
not a
boredom. Be
no, it's not a
warned.
bad thing. Because I mean, honestly, when I watched the first time, I was really paying attention to okay, let's analyze everything. I think I didn't choose to have fun with it. Second time, I just watched it for fun. I had a much better time. I enjoyed it. I wasn't nitpicking so much. The continuous watches after that were just because hey, I wanted to watch something while I was doing something else. But
There's a box quote. This movie's better if you don't pay attention.
you guys are twisting my words. Y'all can go fuck yourselves.
Only have fun when you watch movies, and you'll enjoy this one. Garrett.
Well, no, John, go ahead and say it on camera then.
Camera.
Or
Yeah.
microphone.
Yeah. What do you want me to hear? What do you want me to say?
You want to talk shit about movies, but you just said Halloween Ends was worse than this.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Halloween Ends was trash.
And we're going to get to that in the next episode, but
We call that a teaser in the business.
Are you teased, listeners? It's Halloween. That's why I did that.
we should cash you the Crypt Keeper. That was a great impression, Mark.
I'm in. And then I can have all the Crypt Keeper fanboys yelling at me for my performance.
Yes. Except if Zombie did it, it'd be Sherry Moon as the Crypt Keeper.
I would pay John Kassir to rip your shit apart just for fucking doing a terrible impression.
Well, he'll be at Frightmare. Maybe I can do it in person at his face.
Oh my God, you're going to get kicked out
Please,
of Frightmare.
please don't harm the Crypt Keeper with your impression.
You're right. We got to keep him safe. He's a national treasure. All right, well, listeners, what did you think about The Munsters 2022? It's available now on Netflix. Give it a watch if you want to, and let us know your thoughts. We'll see you next time for Hellraiser. That's next. See you then.
Get your hells raised.
Bye.